To start my bug project, I've drawn the shape of my bug body. You could also do this with your butterfly. I didn't think about the legs at all, or the antenna, or anything that comes off in the body. I also used colored pencil for this part of the project as well. I tried to fill up my space the best that I can. I want to come very close to the edges of my paper. My paper is about the same size as my metal. So the more space we use up on the paper, the more of the metal we will be able to use as well. I'm going to use 2 pieces of tape, one at the top and at the bottom, to hold this in place. And then this will be set on top of a piece of felt or something that has a little bit of a squishiness to it. And then I can start tracing this into my metal. I'm going to use a thick pencil for this. My pencil is a different color than my design. This helps out as I'm tracing. This lets me know where I've gone already. When I take a peek on the other side, I'm going to notice that there's a little bit of an edge wherever I've drawn. This edge is the beginning of my design onto my metal. I'm going to remove my design from my metal, and I'll have the entire bug design on there if I didn't miss any spots on my design when I was pressing it in with my big pencil. And now I can use other tools. So if you are going to try to pop this out, you're going to use a tool that looks kind of like this. It has a rounded edge and one that is a little bit more flat. I'm going to take that in my hand, flip it over, and I think I'm going to start with these dots. So what I do is I just gently continue to go around and around in a little circle with the tool that I just showed you. Because my hand is on the other side, it's allowing it to pop out just a little bit. If I go too hard and too much in one spot, this metal can rip a little bit, so you want to be a little bit careful. I'm going to continue to do this throughout the whole thing. After you've popped out everything that you want to pop out, and you've added a lot of design in here, and this is pretty close, but I might even add a little bit more. Ah, yeah, that looks better. Now I'm going to take my scissors and simply cut this bug out. So very carefully, and this is where it gets a little tricky because you don't want your fingers to rub up against this. You can get, well, it's called a metal cut, but it feels a little bit like a paper cut. And take little chunks at a time. So if you need to take little pieces at a time, you certainly can as you're coming around. Like this is a hard corner to turn, so I'm going to cut in and take that little bit. Then I might even come in from a different angle to try to get this corner. So now I'm coming in from this direction and cutting it. This part does get a little tricky, but I know you can handle it. Now I have all of my designs in my metal. You can see I've added some dots and some circles and a couple of lines. Now I'm ready to add the color. We're thinking about a color scheme. Some of the color schemes that we talked about were primary colors, secondary colors, intermediate colors. We talked about warm and cool and complementary. I'm going to use warm colors to start out with here. One thing that I'm going to suggest is to test these out on some scrap pieces. So this might be a scrap piece that I have available to me. I'm going to take this marker, it has to be a permanent marker, and just test it out. That one wasn't super bright. That one's a little lighter as well. When I go to one color like this, it's going to shine and show up really well. So now I'll just take and color each part, and you just kind of draw right on top of it. Again, it's extremely important that we have permanent markers for this. And it will be a little challenging to color because we're coloring on a surface that isn't flat. Here's a piece that I already have colored, And in this one I used more of a cool color scheme. Now that we have this all colored, we're going to place it on a background. The frame is going to echo or repeat the color scheme that we used within our bug. And we're also going to use some wire to add the antennas and the legs. So you can simply just take the wire and move it around and get the shape that you want and cut it off. Or if you want to, you can mess around with it a little bit. So I have this one right here. That's going to be one of my legs. I'm going to try to repeat that again. Actually, I need one this size. So what I did here was I took a small dowel and I placed it around there. And now I'm just kind of wrapping it with my fingers around and around. Sometimes it's easiest to do this. And I want to get about the same amount. That's about right. So now I'll pull this off. And this is the trick to making this stay. I'm going to take the end of my wire and place it right through the front like that, all the way until it goes nice and tight. Now I can mess with this, make this coil farther apart or closer. It's really up to you. And what I'll take is measure this out. So I want to get them about the same length. And at the bottom I just brought this back up so it kind of looks like it has a foot. And I twisted it around. And then just the plain scissors will be just fine. Like that. Okay, it'll look something like that, and I'll be able to set those next to each other. Now let's talk about applying these to our space. So what you're going to use for that part is some glue dots. I have some glue dots available. You're going to place your bug down, or your butterfly, take your glue dots, and there's two sides to this. You'll carefully peel one side or the other off. We'll see which one does the job. So now I have just this plastic piece with this little tiny glue dot on. I'm going to kind of figure out where I want to put that. I'm going to put it right in the center there. Press this down, and you'll have to be really careful by pulling the plastic off. So I kind of press down with my finger as I pull this off so that the glue dot stays onto the paper. Then I'll take my metal or my wire pieces, set them down, and then I'll be able to put this right on top of it. Maybe I'll readjust those later a little bit. So I'll do that for all of my legs, and then your final step will be, maybe I add some antenna on there or something like that. Your final step will be to bring it to an assistant or the teacher, and we'll put some hot glue on there to make sure that everything sticks together. I can't wait to see the bugs that you make.